So coming up in this episode, we have emergency lights failing in a church and I go subterranean in an inspection pit. This is Ampfire Vlog, episode 4. Morning. I've dropped my keys. It's Monday. I'm just leaving the unit to go do a job. A little church down the road, like a little modern church. Fire alarm service and emergency lights. There might be extinguishers as well, I'm not too sure. Let me just turn this off again just in case of the noise. Crap weekend, well, busy weekend. Caught up a little bit in the unit on Saturday. Went in, did a load of invoicing, did a load of quoting, emailing. Didn't get a chance to tidy up much. So all those extinguishers are still in there. Went out on the bike at the weekend to do some filming for the Head Angle YouTube channel. If you like mountain bikes, go check that out. Currently about 35,000 subscribers, so that's like the big YouTube channel before I started doing this. Monday mornings are always really tricky because we always book a job in for around about 10-11 o'clock, and I always have the best intentions to get there for 10-11 o'clock, trying to get to that job first thing. Inevitably, Monday morning traffic's always the worst. It's always the worst. Then you get in to just a load of stuff that you have to do. There's a bunch of emails. I've had an email off the accountant, which I didn't have to action anything, but I certainly had to digest it. I had ring up the insurance company, the old van insurance company, because they'd auto-renewed and we told them not to, and they took money out of the account and they fucked up and put the policy in the wrong name. It's all that sort of stuff that you're like... These companies never have easy ways to contact them. They never have an email that you can just go, right, I just want to email this, and I can just bang off an email at night or whenever I've got 5 and then follow that up. I have to ring, I have to go on hold, I have to speak to somebody, I have to press a million different options. And I know this is all just the same stuff that we have to deal with, but it's really frustrating, especially in business. You think when you deal in business, you'd think you'd have a contact email, everything's done by email, but it just isn't. It's all, and they send you emails all the time, and it has that thing that says no reply, and it's so infuriating because you could just, and they don't want you to reply, because they didn't want me to reply to an email and say, sorry, no, cancel it, I don't want this, but cancel direct debit, this is not for us anymore, we're not using you, because they then lose that opportunity to transfer us to their customer retention team and then to find out what is wrong and see if they can turn that around. And it's like, no, just leave me, I'm not interested. Belle comes in on Monday as well, and we have to debrief and we sort of talk about what's gone on at the weekend, and she's had emails and there's a bit of chat and there's a bit of, we were bouncing ideas off each other's then, and we're trying to work out, we're really trying to, over this Christmas period, come up with some more efficient ways of doing things. Use some of the software that we use in more efficiently. So we use Xero for our accounting, and we use a company called Logit, which is specifically for fire engineers, for all our certification and our certs and sort of general day-to-day project management. And we're not utilising all the features on that because it's obviously it's always a bit of learning curve and a bit straight. Like it's always hard work to start off with, to start using these new things, but in the long run it's easier. So yeah, we're not integrating those systems as best as we could be. So we just need to do that, and we're just coming up with better systems. Like she was looking at them, we really need to put in documents on these things. And we've kind of got documents all over the place, and we need to centralise stuff and just get everything working a little bit better. The only problem with some of these systems is for Logit, it's a brilliant system and it has definitely improved, and the guys are really good, they take feedback. But it works online only, and so the problem we have is we've just had a bit of a disgruntled customer because we couldn't get the certs over in time, and it's not entirely their fault, but it's certainly what started the issue. This is a farm, it was a campsite and a farm in the middle of nowhere with no phone signal, literally no phone signal. So I had to write everything down in my notebook. I couldn't do the cert. Usually I'm doing it on my phone, adding it as we go, or adding it on site. So I was unable to do that. and then I have to write everything in my notebook, and then I have to drive up the road, and then you have all the best intentions to like, I'll just drive up the road and I'll pull over and I'll do the cert. But then you get on the road, and then you're on a dual carriageway, and then you're on the motorway, and you're like, oh, where am I going to pull over? And before you know, it's been an hour. Then you get home, or you get back to the unit, back to the office, and you're like, oh, I'll just do this, I'll just do that. And then that goes on the to-do list. And we've just been so busy, that to-do list was 2 weeks, and then the customer has kind of lost their shit a little bit. We also don't do the certs until they pay, so that gives us a bit of breathing room. So often I think my mindset must have been, do you know what, because we'll invoice them, we've got the key information to invoice them, we know what we did, how much we did, blah blah blah, let's get it invoiced. They'll pay at the end of the month, and that gives me a bit of time to do the certs, or Bal can go through and do the certs. Turned out they paid straight away, then they wanted the cert straight away, and then we just weren't able to deliver that, and that's on us. But it comes from, it's not blaming the software, because it isn't the software's fault. It's coming from recognising that and then going, okay, what process can we put in place to try and stop that and mitigate that? That's what it is. Right, I need to get to this job. Just got here and the door's locked. I thought that was his car, but it's obviously not. So I'm just going to see if there's a contact. Oh, he's here. Hey up, buddy. Hey up.
What time did you turn up?
About 5 minutes ago.
Steve told me you would be here for 9.
9?
Yeah.
No, we got between 10 and 11.
So I got to 9:45 and I thought, well, we're just going to walk into town. He'll turn up while I'm not fucking there. And look.
Not the greatest core point, FIKE core points are. They work when they go in, but them in ESP core points, over time, they just get stickier and stickier. And then it's like, how do you judge what's an adequate activation and not? Like sometimes on these, you can be really pressing them in. And I always think if it's a fire and you're not used to that and you're pressing it, you just think it hasn't worked. You can't beat good old like the Gent or the Apollo or the Hitachi core points. They just work. This system it's not brand new. It's about 2018, so it's like 6 years old now. But it's regularly maintained every 6 months. They have a service, and we pretty much do a full service every time because it's not huge. I think it's. You could argue they do 50% on the 6 months, but it's not really worth it. It's a church and it's like a play group. They have like yoga classes, you know, they've got kids classes and crafts. But what's really interesting, it's always changing. There's always, every time I come, there's always something different. And so a lot of the time with these, you're just being a bit nosy, especially with like the emergency lights and stuff. Like I can remember when they put this partition in. And it's just like double checking they've allowed for, you know, the detectors and stuff like that. So yeah, but it's always good to be a bit nosy. Part of this job is double checking everything, making sure things haven't changed, evacuation routes haven't changed, uses of rooms haven't changed. I'm noticing a number of emergency lights have failed, so like straight away I've literally not had these on less than half an hour. 2 downstairs the main hall, this one is failed straight away. Done. Now I'm going to quickly do the invoice, because if we do the invoice, we get paid straight away apparently, because they're doing counting tomorrow. And they like to get everything done and dusted because I think their year end is Christmas or December or something on those lines. So I'm going to quickly send this invoice, and then we're going to head to a lorry yard next. Just had a customer ring up who had a new building built. They're a social club, like a bowling club. And they had a new clubhouse built, and the building contractor that's built the clubhouse paid their electricians to build the fire alarm systems, to put the fire alarm systems in the emergency light systems. We went out and serviced the system initially, just did a service on it. I don't think they've had any commissioning certificates or anything like that, but we've gone out and did the initial system. Very simple system, so it's not a massive issue. But effectively we were showing the customer the other week how to use the, I think I might have filmed it actually. Yes, I might have filmed all this. So this might have been the other week. So when we went out and showed the customer how to use the fire alarm panel, we realised that one of the call points doesn't work. Well, they've just rang back now. So I got an email the other day from them, and it basically was just copying me into what was going on. They'd spoken to the building contractor. The building contractor has then forwarded it and spoke to the electrical contractor. Turns out the electrical contractor used another subcontractor, and they've all kind of looped each other in and effectively said, oh, if I want to ring their engineer whilst on site, he can happily talk me through. Well, I don't need to ring the engineer. We can diagnose and fix the problem themselves. Two reasons we were saying to go back to them is, one, their guarantee is with them. The building's less than 6 months old, so their guarantee is with them. So it would make sense for them to go back to their original building contractor, and that contractor then go to their employees or the people they used to work, because that's where the thread of responsibility is. So if that was me and I was taking on that job, or I'd done that job and I'd use subbies, I'd just be palming. I'd be like, right, go and sort your mess out, or go and sort the problem out. You know, this is on you. But for whatever reason, it seems like they're just palming it off a bit, and they're like, oh yeah, if you guys on site, well, hang on a minute. If I'm on site, then the customer's going to be paying for me to be on site. So who picks up that bill? Because this falls on them. So there's a bit of a conversation being had there. Also, like, I can run the diagnostics and stuff. So the other reason we said go back to them as well was something slightly off there with how that's been cabled up, how the first fix has been gone up. And so we can soon do, it's a small system, I can soon take a few heads off, run a few tests, figure out everything. It's not a massive issue. It just helps massively if there is something that they kind of know when they've installed it. So when I install a system, for that fault, the fault that was happening, without trying to explain, if I'd installed that system, I kind of know what's gone on where, and it might just be something really simple going, yes, we had a bit of an issue with this. I think I know what the problem is. This is what the problem is. And they could just tell me straight away, and then I know what to do to try and rectify it. Or I can go, okay, I can see what you've done there. Okay, I can see where the problem is. This is what we need to do going forward, whatever. But ultimately, it's just the builder's trying to palm it off. And I get it, you know. He's gone, he doesn't want to deal with it. And he's thinking, well, if they've got an engineer on site, then let the engineer deal with it. Which is fine. But we're going to bill the customer for fixing the problem because it isn't our system. We didn't install it. It's not our guarantees. So obviously, if we're going to fix it, we'll bill the customer. I've got to move this van because he was angry at me, that driver was, and then I've got to get in there. Back in, just had that quick meeting with their accounts department. They've had quite a few changes. So we came here a few months ago and installed and commissioned a fire alarm panel in a new building they've built here. So this is like an industrial estate, and basically the guy owns pretty much most of the estate these days. They started off in one little shed, and then over the years they've expanded, and as they've expanded and moved into other buildings and things like that, they've built other buildings, and then they've rented out the old buildings. And so I think over the years they've ended up taking half the estate, and now they're the landlord to most of the estate as well. And we just had a bit of a conversation because they've changed the leasing, and they wanted to let us know that on one of them, they're not going to be responsible for any of the fire stuff in that building, that it's going to be up to them to sort that out. That's how the new lease works. But the rest of it's still historic and they're doing it. Well, I just had a conversation with them, and I said, look, I'm talking myself out of work here. I'm, you know, at the end of the day, I'm going to be talking myself out of extra work here. But realistically, I don't think you should be taking responsibility for any of the other businesses on the estate. I know you're their landlord, but it's a little bit tricky because they're all industrial units. They're welders, they're fabricators, they're paint sprayers, they're MOT places, they're garages. They've all got certain levels of risk, so it's not just a simple generic thing. And realistically, they should be doing their own risk assessment and doing their own they should be doing their own fire risk assessment and having their own extinguishers and alarm systems and things like that. And the landlord taking on that responsibility is a bit of a no-no, because if anything happens, if they got a new welding, put gas bottles in there, did anything to that building, or even had a small fire and used the extinguishers but didn't tell the landlord, who's responsible for that then? You know, the landlord, I can only come around once a year or once every 6 months or whatever it may be to do a service. And so, yeah, we just had a conversation with them then, basically just saying, look, it will mean they won't end up using somebody. They'll probably go, sorry, no, yes, sorry, no, they'll go, yeah, we'll do it our own. But they'll, maybe as landlords, they can request up-to-date certificates for their own building insurance. That's always useful and probably good practice. But ultimately, I think they're taking on too much responsibility for other people's businesses, and those businesses need to take on that responsibility themselves. We're more than welcome to quote for them. They said they would happily recommend us and say, use this guy, he's brilliant. He never lets us down. And I said, look, ultimately, I'm here to be honest with you. You know, I could quite happily go, yeah, just do it. And I mean, I'm probably talking about we service like 70 extinguishers across the whole estate probably. It's a lot. I'm probably going to reduce that by half. So I'm talking, that's a lot of work I'm talking myself out of. But it's important to be honest and credible and have integrity with the customer. I should be giving them the best advice. They appreciate that. This won't go unnoticed. They've said that it doesn't go unnoticed. That's the reason why they keep using us, and they'll come back to us time and time again and give us more work. And long term, as a business, that's what works. I could quite happily take the easy money and just milk this cash cow and brilliant, I'm milking all these things. But at some point, another management company will get involved. At some point, something happens. Things always change. Things always evolve. And when they do, the music stops and there's no chairs to sit down. Whereas if I'm honest with them, I'm the person who's given that honest advice, and then I get brought through that system and carried on being used. And equally, it's the other way around. There'll be people getting given bad advice, and then they realise, and then I become the trustworthy person that they want to deal with. So it's just how I want to do business. It's just, end of the day, you've got to do business the way you want to do business. You want to run things the way you want to run things, and there's a right way or there's a wrong way. That's the way I look at it, and this is the right way. Yo, so I thought this is quite interesting to show you. Basically, I'm underneath, look at that. I'm down in a pit. And this is just, these are inspection pits, huge inspection pits for lorries and stuff. This is like a VOSA inspection for all the transport and stuff. But they have like fire blankets and powders in it, fire blanket powder, both ends. Obviously, as you can see, even though it's subterranean, they have all the systems in place. And then obviously, pretty cool. Just thought it'd be quite interesting. What they've got is they've got a 2K powder and a fire blanket at the end of each channel. They've got emergency lighting as well. We don't actually test the emergency lighting, but they have emergency lighting down the sides as well. And then they have this channel that's here, they have the same on that side as well. But it's just quite interesting to show you, I thought. A bit different. Right, back in the van. All done. They've got quite a few that were due their 5-year test. A few powders. Luckily I had the powders on the van. And I had the foams on the van as well. No CO2. CO2s are due in a couple of years. They're due their 2016, their CO2s went in. But a lot of stuff went in 2019, so on their 5-year test. So I had everything on the van, so I just did it. With a customer like this, we've got such a good relationship with them, and they're very much a no-nonsense. They just want to be compliant. They're not gonna, you know, if they weren't happy with us as a supplier, in terms of price, in terms of quality, in terms of our service, they just wouldn't be using us. That's very much how they are. So they are, just do it, you know, don't waste our time emailing us, telling us this, telling us that, booking it in. That adds more. And there's a lot of customers like that. I always liken it, these guys do MOTs. They do MOTs for lorries, they do MOTs for vans and stuff. So I liken it to MOTs. If you take your car for an MOT, particularly if you're a business, maybe if you're, you know, your family car, maybe slightly different, but particularly if you're a business, if you take your car or your van for an MOT and you need that for work, or that's a tool for work, like a van, you don't want them to fail your MOT on a single bolt tyre or a bulb or something like that. There's a certain level of, if they can ring you by all means and say we're going to change the tyre. But when I put this in for an MOT, the guy across the road does it. I've got a relationship with him. Tim just knows, just do it. You know, unless it's like a £4,000 bill, and I might want to then look at other options. Up to 300 or 400 quid, he'll just do it. You know, he kind of knows, because if he doesn't do it and then he fails me on the MOT, or he says it's going to be retested in a couple of weeks, so you have to rebook it in, he doesn't do it, that comes back to me. That's a day, already a day without that van. I've dropped it off in the morning, gone with that van for the day. I've gone off and done my business all day and my work, and then I've come back, and then the van needs some work doing, CV joint, blah blah blah, whatever. That just do it, basically. That just needs doing. So yeah, basically it's I liken it to an MOT. Majority of our customers, if it's a 50 quid 5-year test on a single extinguisher and we don't do it there and then, 9 times out of 10 it causes them more cost and more hassle. That means we've got to let somebody know, they've got to authorise it, they've got to then rebook it in, so that's their admin and our admin both having to like talk to each other, and when can we pop back, is this a suitable day, blah blah blah. Whereas we're just on site now, we're here. If I can, I'll let them know. I always go and talk to them in the office and go bomb bomb bomb, but these guys are just like, whatever, don't care.